Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Noble Capital Markets Virtual Conference. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce to you Alliance Entertainment. We're going to have Bruce Ogilvie, who's the chairman of the company, present here in a minute. Before I turn it over to Bruce, I just wanted to remind you that if you have questions, feel free to, during the presentation, to ask those questions by putting those into the chat box below your screen. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. Go ahead, Bruce. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join. I'm Bruce Ogilvie. I'm the chairman of Alliance Entertainment, and I'm going to tell you about our company today. So what Alliance Entertainment does is we are a distributor, a stocking distributor of over 325,000 SKUs in stock of entertainment products. These entertainment products consist of movies, music, video games, and collectibles. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen all these great content providers that we work with, and we distribute their products because we do a good job for them and we add value to the marketplace. That value we add is having that long tail selection that we offer to all these online retailers that own brick and mortar locations. These online retailers all want to be as good as Amazon, but what's lacking to make them on a level playing field of entertainment products is selection. And that's where we come in as the hamburger helper, where we can improve their selection and put them on a level playing field with Amazon. We're able to white label all these shipments direct to consumer on their behalf and ship directly to their customers for any of those customers that shop online on those websites there. It comes in, you think it came from Barnes & Noble or Costco or Best Buy, but it actually came from Alliance. That's over 40% of Alliance's business is direct to consumer type shipments there. As good as Amazon is, and they are the gold standard that everybody wants to beat, they come to us too also for long tail selection there. As their distribution centers, get stuffed with more goods, they're scaling back on what they actually stock in those DCs, and they count on Alliance to do that fulfillment for them there. We meet those stringent SLAs that they have to ship within 6 hours or less. So 40% of our business direct to consumer, either our brands that we own or these brands you see on the right hand side, and the other 60% is traditional wholesale to retailers, to brick and mortar locations, whether it be Walmart's 3,900 locations or your small independent music store, which there's over 2,500 in the United States today that we sell to. That they rely on us with having those products there. Just an overall view of our sales by configuration. Over a third of our business is gaming, and vinyl is like 28% of our business there. Movies, 17% range there. CDs are still holding strong at 11%, and collectibles, which we consider a growth category as well as vinyl, is very small percentage, but that's the area we're really going to lean into. If you get a chance, there's a couple of good hyperlinks. You can read all about vinyl, how well that's doing, and also the global brand of licensing product on the right-hand side there, how collectibles is growing. We're trying to build a moat around our business. So 200 million of our 1.1 billion comes from exclusive product that we distribute where we have no competition. Kind of think of it as an aggregator, a consolidator of these smaller brands. And so Distribution Solutions has 62 movie studios, and AMP has 90 music labels. And this is where it's consigned inventory, so no inventory risk. It helps us, offers this really wide tail of selection. It really helps the e-commerce sales, but we have no competition. And this is a way for us to take all these and consolidate it into less boxes being sold into Walmart or other retailers there. To make this work even better, and as the industry is evolving there, we have our Mill Creek division there. Mill Creek is where we license the content from the movie studios. Current, we're licensing from Disney, Sony, Universal Pictures, Lionsgate, CBS, and other independent studios there. We feel this is going to be our long tail growth opportunity here, where as the industry maybe evolves more, leaning heavier into digital and less in the physical, we'll come in and we'll license the physical from them, take over that headache for them because it's not going to become their core competency. It'll be our core competency, but we'll do it for the entire industry there. And that's our long-term plan of growth there. Just keep going in that direction. Brief acquisition history. We got to where we were by doing acquisitions. In 2001, I joined the company with Jeff. We were doing about $18 million a year in revenue. Fast forward 20 years up to 2020 with Kokum, which we acquired in 2020. We went from 18 million to 1.4 billion. We like to show this slide here that we have a good track record of doing acquisitions. And right now we're poised and ready, set to go our powder's dry. We have the ability to raise money. We have $40 million of availability in our line of credit to go out and do some acquisitions. And we're currently in 6 different conversations with 6 different companies to acquire. This is going to help us grow our top line. Currently, our top line is right around, I call it steady state. Last year we did 1.1 billion. This year 1.1 billion. Next year we'll do 1.1 billion. In order to get to that next level, we're going to be a $5 billion company in 5 years. We have to do acquisitions. And that's one of the main reasons why we decided to go public and merge with the SPAC. They have the ability to raise capital and continue our growth pattern there. But we know what we're doing when it comes to acquisitions, and that's just going to benefit all the shareholders that join us. One thing that's making us more successful is technology. We invested in this technology. It's called AutoStore. I like to call it the Rubik's Cube of auto storage retrieval systems. Everybody's seen in a Rubik's Cube. Think of a cube as really a shelf location. These shelf locations stacked on top of each other like a Rubik's Cube. They're all crammed together, so there's no aisles in between the shelf locations there. And this allows us to save money and get additional storage space. Found this company 3 years ago. We got it up and operational and working January of last year. We're on our 18th month of using it. Before AutoStore, we had 41 employees walking through our mezzanine locations for LPs, finding the LPs that were needed to be picked for the orders that we had to ship out. Now all the LPs are located in AutoStore. And so what we basically eliminated is a travel time. So 41 employees were walking around picking the orders in very efficient manner that we had for a manual system there. But with AutoStore, we went from 41 employees down to 7 employees, and that's a payroll savings of between $3 to $3.5 million a year. Not only do we get gaining the efficiencies of having these people pick faster and saving us money, but we also gained additional storage space. And when I show you the next slide, you'll appreciate there. One other new piece of equipment we just added is OPEX. And once again, there are hyperlinks for you to check these things out. You can see it. OPEX is going to help us with items that are not standard packaging, we call them like non-sortable items, but now they are sortable there. Because of AutoStore, as I was talking about earlier there, and creating additional picking locations, we realized that we could eliminate about 190,000 square feet of storage space, warehouse space that we had in Shakopee, Minnesota. We closed that facility on May 31st, and we still have a 30,000 square foot facility there, but we've eliminated that 190,000 square feet and all the costs associated with that redundant inventory, redundant management, dual IT systems there, maintenance, repairs, all the costs associated with operating facility. And we expect that's going to save us about $5 million a year. All that fulfillment that was being done in Minneapolis is now moved to Kentucky. And the nice thing about all that is not only do we get the benefit of eliminating $5 million a year of costs, which as of May 31st of this year, but also our cost of shipping orders out of that facility was higher. There wasn't a lot of automation there. Now those orders are going to be fulfilled out of Kentucky and at a lower cost per order. So we're going to get the benefit of that. And then the last benefit is we had redundant inventory. We had the same inventory in 2 locations. Now eliminating that warehouse, that redundant inventory, we're not going to eliminate 100% of the redundant inventory, but at least 50%. That's going to improve our balance sheet, which will also improve our earnings from an EBITDA perspective there. I'm just going to briefly take us over the 9-month history, what we're doing here. So a couple of key things I just wanted to point out there. Our gross profit for the $864 million went up from 11.8% from 8.08%. So quite a bit of improvement there. And the reason we had so much improvement there is we got in trouble with some retro arcades, and in prior year, this all has to do with the supply chain issues that the whole country experienced during Q4 of 2021. All those cargo ships couldn't get unloaded, and we got caught up in that. We had a lot of extra inventory we had to deal with, so we had to discount in order to move the goods. And that's why we're only getting 8.08%. Now, with all that arcade inventory that we had, we've been able to sell through and get through all that. Our gross profit is getting back up. Yes, for the 9 months, it's 11.8, but for the quarter, it was 12.4. I believe the number there was there. If you look there, you'll notice that our fulfillment expenses have gone down. So we were running 5.50%, and now we're down to 4.39%. And that's all driven because of AutoStore and that reduction of 41 down to 7 people there. This doesn't even count the benefit we're going to get closing the Kokum facility there, that 190,000 square feet. So these numbers are just going to continue to improve. Bottom line, we're at 22.2 million in EBITDA, up from a negative 21 million, a $43 million improvement between the same 9-month period there. And one other number just to kind of keep in the back of your mind there is our interest cost there, which is it's right around $9 million annualized. Here it is, interest expense 9.5 million. If you annualize that, it's right around $12 million. We feel in 25, because we have improved our balance sheet and got our inventory down, and our loan balance is down, that we should save about, our total interest costs, assuming no changes by the Fed, will be right around 8.4 million. So that's another pickup there for 2025. This is the same financial step I basically showed you on set for 12 months. So negative 17.6 million for 6/30/23. And that was all driven by those one-time supply chain issues I spoke about earlier with the arcades there. And so 35.8 million caused that negative 17, but that's gone. And now we're running 22.2 million for the 9 months, expecting to come in right around 25 million for this current fiscal year that ends in 3 more days. And then for 2025, we expect to be right around $38 million there. This is our balance sheet here. Inventory, it was at a peak of 249 million there, 6/30/22, and it's down to $108 million. And if you look at our loan balance there, 136 million was our loan. It actually was 194. It just doesn't show it on this slide, but that actually was our high point there. And we're now down to 87 million. And today, as I talked to you, we're right at $75 million with $40 million of availability. That's our cash, basically our cash that we need to do other things. We have the ability to increase our credit line if we want to. We chose to bring it down to much lower to where it's at. This is our cap table here. We have 51 million shares outstanding. I can just share with you here that 47.8 million of those shares are owned by Jeff Walker and myself. 1.5 million shares are owned by Adair. Those are the original sponsors of the SPAC, and the balance is in the float. There's about 2.2 million shares in the float. You also see there's warrants on there. Most of those warrants came from the SPAC. There's 11.5 million shares at $10 that was originally, and then you got half a warrant there, so that was like 5.75 million. There's a little more than 4 million shares warrants at 11.50 that for the Adair sponsors have there. So why it's 11.46 is Think Equity got 50,000 warrants at a 375 strike price. The lion's share of the warrants at 11.50 strike price, 11.50, and then the extra say we can force an execution of the warrants not till the stock hits 18. I think we'd all be happy on this call if you got the stock today and it got up to $18. You'd be very happy. You'd be happy with that dilution. Plus, not to mention 11.50 of that cash will go to the company there. So just to over highlights there, proven management experience. There's significant barriers to entry into our marketplace, and we have very strong leadership there. We have lots of organic growth opportunities, which I talk about acquisition as well as expanding our product there. We have the proven track M&A experience there, and we're investing in a lot of technology to make our operation more efficient. And I can stop here right now for questions.
Thanks, Bruce. And again, just as a reminder, if you have a question, feel free to type that into that chat box down there, and we'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. A couple of questions. I was fortunate enough to tour your facilities in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and it's just an incredible facility. And I encourage any investors that if they're in the area, take a tour because it's really impressive. A couple of things about AutoStore, and it looks like you have the ability, it seems, have the space to go ahead and put in another AutoStore bay or whatever in your space, and was just wondering, in terms of driving efficiencies from your facility there, what are your plans to put in additional AutoStore sections and bays into your facility?
Well, that what you saw, Michael, thank you for all those kind words. That was a $10 million investment for that equipment there. And of course, it's a 3 to 3.5 year payback on that we're getting right now. As far as doing another expansion and spending another $10 million. We're certainly conscious about our CapEx that we spend. Normally it's about about $2.5 to $3 million a year for CapEx, just to deal with replacement of equipment, repairs, and update servers and stuff like that. But nothing is preventing us from doing it. I just think we just want to, spend money wisely. It has been a good investment for us there. It just has to make economic sense that we're going to get that ROI of getting our money back in 3 years. Just to put it in to have it, if we can't get the ROI, I don't want to do it. But it does give us a lot more capacity by eliminating those aisles. As you saw, we had all that mezzanine. Don't really want to touch any of that mezzanine. We've got, total, we have, over $20 million invested in mezzanine there to build all that infrastructure there. But we do have the ability to go past, add on the auto store, double its size if we wanted to there. But I'd rather put the money in acquiring companies right at the moment to grow our top line revenue and grow our accretive earnings.
Yeah, and I'd like to come back to that in a second. And in terms of just the general feeling, you indicated that you're anticipating that you're at a steady state with kind of like a flat revenue growth or flat revenues looking forward. What is, I guess, the key drivers that investors could look for in terms of, is it more the macro economy? Is it, artists and popularity of movies? I mean, what are the overlying, and of course you have some secular challenges and things like that, I'm sure. And I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about your revenue outlook and what are the levers that are driving that, kind of steady state, as you say. Is it the macro economy? Is it the artist? What are the components that we should, focus on?
Well, there's definitely more artists today, putting out new music, and it's very easy to create music than it was in the past. They don't have to go into studios; they can just work out of their home, off their Macs, and then you see them all being created overnight with TikTok because of social media. It really is a level playing field for artists now to get exposure than they ever had. Your days you have to play for like 10 years, in all the bars and hope you get discovered and a record company would sign you and then put it out. But that's all changed now with a TikTok and Instagram, and you get all these sensations. And now what the record companies are looking for is, how many followers do you have, and you just create it there. And then once you say, so you get signed and now you're a superstar. Well, now once you're a superstar, you're known. You don't have to go with the record companies anymore. You could do your own world. Like if you take like Usher's a very popular artist. He's strong. Well, he's part of our AMP label division there. So they need us to do physical product. They don't need us to do digital product. They rather do digital themselves. Plus, they can always pick up the phone, and it was any company that's doing any type of streaming services, whether it be Spotify or Amazon or Apple, they're going to talk to Usher and his people at the drop of a hat. And so he can get all his stuff with no problem. He can just drop a digital track. These artists drop digital tracks, like one a week at that rate there. It's when they want to put out a physical release, they come to us and they need us for that there. So I think there's always going to be people coming up with new music. Now, are they going to be the Beatles that you never forget and they last around forever? There's probably a lot of superstars we heard today. You're not going to remember who they are a year from now. It comes and goes. But there is plenty of talent out there to drive that business there. And it's been equalized because it's very easy to get your stuff played and get exposure. And the more exposure there is, the better it is for us, because that's just more physical content we can sell.
Terrific. And I know that you said that you plan to lean into one area of like vinyl sales, for instance. And of course, vinyl sales have benefited from a resurgence. And I was just wondering, in terms of where do you think we are in terms of that resurgence and the tail that we are at in terms of vinyl sales?
I think that vinyl will continue to grow as other people, like it. The percentage of female buyers has grown in vinyl compared to the old days where mostly it was men. And now you're seeing like 48% women and 50, it's young women. And the reason it's young women is it allows for more social interaction between their boyfriend or girlfriend, which they're forced to sit down, put the record on, let it play the way the artist wants you to hear it, and you might actually have a conversation with your better half. And that's been kind of a big driver to that there too. Because streaming is so efficient, everybody can get exposed to whatever they want to. And for $10 a month, it's all you can eat or drink, as far as streaming, whether it be movies or music, and gaming now. Well, gaming's more, but it's cost. But you get exposed to things that you may not, because you don't want to make the investment. And once you get exposed to it, and then you connect, you're going to want to go to the concert. You're going to want to buy the T-shirt. You're going to buy the hat. You're going to want to buy any collectible. Vinyl is a form of a collectible. People today who buy vinyl, or they buy the Taylor Swift box sets, or the K-pop box sets, and then we have movie box sets too. They're just kind of special packages that make physical content have a greater value or appreciated value there, where you want to buy it and own it and keep it and cherish it there. And that's our area of expertise, as we distribute all those products.
And Bruce, I know that you've been on an efficiency, trying to drive efficiencies out of your business, and consolidating your warehouses and so forth. And was just wondering if you can just talk about a little bit about where you are on driving your efficiencies in terms of opportunities that you can still see going forward on that.
Yeah. So obviously, because of AutoStore, and we created that additional storage space there, we were able to move and shut down that facility, and bring it into Shepherdsville, Kentucky. And that's going to just drive our fulfillment costs even lower as a percentage of our business there. Our ultimate goal is to get our EBITDA back in the 5% range. We were 4.3% EBITDA for the quarter that just ended 12/31 there. That's because we had really high volume there, and that was still with the Kokomo operation in place there. And now next 12/31 quarter, it's the EBITDA should be north of 5 by that time there. And that's just going to happen with we can't, it's really hard to raise our prices. Nobody wants to pay more money for stuff. So all we can do is torture our suppliers for better pricing, or okay, how about we pay a little faster so we can get a lower price, because that generally gets people motivated there. But going into talking to Walmart or Target or Best Buy or Amazon, hey, you need to pay more. Good luck. That's an impossible conversation. So how do we make our operation more efficient? And I'm just kind of a techie guy, warehouse guy. I'm always looking in our warehouse, what can we do to make it more efficient, and where can we invest money to drive down our costs of doing business there. So that's my DNA.
And one of the other areas too that I think that you've been driving is trying to do direct relationships and directly with the music publishers and so forth. And I was wondering if you could talk and touch a little bit about that progress.
So back in the 80s, when the CD was taking over vinyl never officially went away. It didn't just totally disappear like a buggy whip, but vinyl was always around for the audiophile purists. And what happened during that period there, the 80s there, is that the record companies, they licensed their vinyl rights to manufacture to third-party companies. And I just see it, history always has a way of repeating itself. And right now, vinyl is still doing really well for the record companies. But if it should slow down or taper off for any reason there, we would step in and say, let us take over and license it and do the manufacturing and selling. And because we just don't believe physical product will ever totally go away, whether it be movies, music, or games. It's still an efficient way of getting content. As good as streaming is in 4K, there's still latency or pixelation. You can see it when you're streaming a movie, on Netflix, or if you want that warm sounding quality of vinyl, you got to get vinyl. So you need that physical media to get the job done there. And things, as far now you got 8K TVs are around the corner. There's no 8K content available, but that's hard to push 8K through when even 4K is. I mean, they have to compress it to get it through, so you can use it at your home there. But if you don't want latency or you don't want pixelation, you got to buy physical media.
And it was brought to my attention too that in some cases, some of these aggregators that may not have the content or may not have the licensing of that content. And so even though you may subscribe to Spotify, for instance, might not have that content that you are used to. And so the physical product is what you would, kind of go back to. So
that is the complaint. You're just renting. You're just renting your entertainment products. You don't own it. Everybody used to own their stuff, and so some people are concerned that okay, maybe this whole thing of streaming and paying all this money, I'd rather buy my favorite movies and keep those and build my collection there, or put in your kaleidoscope machine that you might have and all that for the high-end user there. But yes, that's
yeah, and in some cases, the design work too, I think is pretty captivating in terms of some of those
correct
things like that. Let's go back to the acquisitions you were talking about. Obviously that's a key component to your growth strategy. And I was just wondering if you can just outline for us what would you like to see in terms of an acquisition? What would be an ideal acquisition? And maybe if you can talk a little bit about the typical financial parameters that you might look for in terms of an acquisition, whether it might be in a multiple of adjusted EBITDA or whatever.
Yes. So I can say of the 13 acquisitions we did, the cheapest one we bought was book value, and the most expensive one was a 7x multiple of EBITDA. But that 7x multiple EBITDA, we got all the synergies on that. So by the time we took out all their operating costs and consolidated, it brought it down to a 3.5x multiple. We normally don't buy, we don't pay a seller more than 3x multiple as a standalone. So if, let's just say your EBITDA, I mean, in a perfect scenario, let's say there was a competitor and that competitor was running their business and they were doing $100 million a year or $200 million a year. And the most they were inking out was like $2 million worth of EBITDA there. But they had all these fixed costs that were built into their operation there. Then we want to come in and we would say, okay, we'll give you a 3x multiple as a standalone EBITDA, but you've got to have a certain amount, you've got to deliver us the working capital that's required to run that business. So we will look at, okay, what is the AR, what is the inventory, add those two numbers, and then what is the AP, because we assume the AP when we buy the business, and we say, okay, you need to have net working capital. When we take a 12-month average, let's say it's $5 million. So say, great, we're going to give you that $6 million, multiple, but you got to deliver $5 million of working, because that's what the business requires. Now, if for some reason the working capital goes up, that's a benefit to the seller. So we pay them the higher working capital. Vice versa, if the net working capital goes down, then we lower the purchase price there. And then it's in the form, then the cash we give them is generally what we can borrow against the AR and the inventory from the selling company that they have. And then and that's all contingent upon what our lender would let us borrow against there. And then when the seller needs to have some type of note, so we know we have leverage in case anything they represented or promised, that we have a holdback way. And it's usually a 3-year note at, depending whether the prevailing interest rate. Currently, we're using about 6% as our interest rate number there that we've done. We've gone as high as 10%, it just depending on, and that could be part of a purchase price where they get a higher purchase price because we pay a higher rate of interest there. But that's our standard thing. As far as what we're currently looking at, we'd love to take out a competitor. That's our number one goal, is to get rid of a competitor, because that just gets somebody out of our hair. And then, or is it a company we could buy that's going to get us products that we currently do not distribute? It's very hard to go to new companies and say, we want to be your distributor. The last thing, they want to have less distributors, not more distributors. But if we could buy a company that is already open with all those lines that we want, then we'll buy the company. And then it's just a matter of making sure that they won't drop us as a client if we buy the company. So that's how our strategy is.
And Bruce, with that, that's all that we have time for. I greatly appreciate your participation today, and it's good to see you again. Thank you.
Michael, thank you. Thank you, everybody.